Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure to the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson, and I'm going to start it off with an article from Reuters.com titled, Russia Says Emergency Hotlines with U.S. and NATO Remain as Nuclear Risks Rise. Let's get into it a little bit. Russia said on Tuesday that it still had an emergency hotline with the United States and the NATO military alliance to deflate crises as nuclear risks rise amid the gravest confrontation between Moscow and the West since the depths of the Cold War. And at the end of the day, these hotlines, these nuclear weapons bans or, peace treaties or denuclearization doesn't matter, because it's all a part of biblical prophecy for nuclear destruction to take place during World War III. And Russia is going to be one of the main players in, this nuclear exchange. This is Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 8. Therefore, wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. What is it saying? I believe Romans 12, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, to the hopeful elect out there of the nation of Israel. The nation of Israel consisting of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All we should be doing right now is getting, good with our power, Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi. We don't have to lift up a finger against these heathen nations, especially these Edomites or so-called white people, because it's going to be Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi that's going to be bringing the pain, which is ultimately going to culminate in that nuclear pain. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, the heathen kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, my vengeance, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi, putting the spirit on these different nations, chiefly the Russians, to turn those keys and shoot those nuclear missiles to the ends of the earth. This is Isaiah. I'll go to 2 Peter first. This is 2 Peter chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 10. And the header reads, a new heaven and a new earth. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise. And in the scriptures, heaven and hell can be symbolic for a condition. Heaven when you're in rulership, and hell, when you're in captivity, which is where the children of Israel are right now, while these Edomites and, to an extent, these other heathen nations are in their heavens. But when the day of the Lord come, when those nuclear missiles are fired, that's going to be the passing away of Esau, Edom's heaven, and the beginning of our heaven, and also the beginning of their hell. Because when the dust settles, all the remaining heathens, all the surviving heathens, are going to go into hardcore bondage and slavery, building up the kingdom of heaven for the first 1,000 years of it, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. And what's going to do that? Those nuclear-tipped ICBMs. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness? Like I just said, the only thing the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel should be concerning themselves with right now is pleasing their power, Yahweh Bahasham Yahawashi. And what did it say in Zephaniah 3 verse 8? Wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of the Most High. And we should be hastening for this great destruction. And that sounds like a crazy thing, hastening for World War III and nukes being used. But, hey, that's the beginning of our heavens, our eternal kingdom, wherein the heavens being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. This is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood. Those ancient battles where men clashed against each other with shields and swords. And to an extent, these battles like World War I or World War II, where you had men, in close combat, shooting at each other with rifles and machine guns, and even having bayonet charges. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. This third woe, the Third World War, is going to be a completely different ball game. While there will be ground battles, to an extent, its culmination is going to be those nuclear missiles being shot to the ends of the earth, burning up the works in the earth, and melting the elements with fervent heat. And again, this is the determination of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai to fulfill his word in these prophecies, and nothing will happen to avert biblical prophecy from coming to its fulfillment. This is Isaiah 55, verse 11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth through his mouthpiece, the prophets. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. The heavens passing away and the elements melting with fervent heat, the fire of his anger coming upon these heathen nations, and this battle being fought with flames and fuel of fire. But it shall accomplish that which I please, it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. X some of these out. And this is Isaiah 34, verse 16. Seek ye out of the book of Yahweh, the Old Testament and the New Testament, as well as the Apocrypha, which is a part of the Old Testament, and read. No one of these shall fail. These prophecies, none shall want her mate, for my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them. Now, let's get back to this article. The 2.5-year-old Ukraine war is entering what Russian officials say is its most dangerous phase as Russian forces advance and the U.S. ponders allowing Kiev to strike deep into Russia with Western missiles. President Vladimir Putin said on September 12th that Western approval for such a step would mean the direct involvement of NATO countries, the United States, and European countries in the war in Ukraine, which, they've already had their involvement in it by sending so much, military aid and money to Ukraine to keep this thing going. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Goroshko, who oversees relations with Europe and NATO, told the state RIA news agency that Moscow perceives the military alliance to be increasing the role of nuclear weapons in its strategy. Russia, Grushko said, was updating its nuclear doctrine to send a signal so that our opponents have no illusions about our readiness to ensure the security of the Russian Federation with all available means. Putin is changing Russia's nuclear doctrine to give Russia a slightly lower threshold for using such weapons in response to an attack with conventional weapons. The United States casts China as its biggest competitor and Russia as its biggest nation-state threat, while U.S. President Joe Biden argues that this century will be defined by an existential contest between democracies and autocracies. A so-called hotline between Moscow and Washington was established in 1963 to reduce the misperceptions that stoked the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 by allowing direct communication between the U.S. and Russian leaders. The U.S.-Russia hotline, now a secure computer communication system, has been used During major crises such as the Six-Day War of 1967, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979, and the 9/11 attacks of 2001, and after the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2003. In addition to the Leaders' Hotline, there are also nuclear hotlines between the Pentagon and the Russian Defense Ministry that were created during the Cold War to reduce the risk of nuclear war. But as we've been going into with the scriptures, this is all for naught. It's all a part of biblical prophecy for nuclear weapons to be used during World War III. And what's also funny is you constantly see Russia, trying to ease tensions, but at the same time, this is an article from Newsweek.com. Russia places nuclear-capable strategic missile launchers on combat duty. So Russia, deep down knows that the likelihood of nuclear weapons being used is inevitable, but ultimately it's through the will of the Lord. And they're talking about the missile launchers for the YARS, nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missile systems. And like I said earlier in the video, Russia is going to be one of the major players, more or less the main player when it comes to these nuclear weapons being used, because they're going to be the one that's going to lead these different nations, even America's own allies, which at some point are going to turn against her during World War III, to shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the United States of America, wiping it off the face of the earth. Which brings me to Isaiah chapter 13. I'm going to start at verse 17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them. And this isn't talking about the ancient Medes, but the spiritual Medes, the Russians. And the header reads, Babylon will fall to the Medes. And when you go into the history, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, was taken down by a surgical strike by Darius the Mede under the orders of Cyrus the Great of the Persian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire at the time. But this isn't talking about ancient Babylon or the ancient Medes. It's talking about Babylon the Great, the United States of America, and Russia, which is also known as Gog, the land of Magog in Ezekiel chapter 38, as well as the North Country in Jeremiah chapter 50. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. So when the time comes, the Most High is going to put that spirit on those Russians to shoot those nukes, and a hotline to avert, nuclear destruction, peace treaties, FRNs, or anything like that will not stop those Russians from shooting those nuclear missiles. Verse 18, their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces. And what do bows shoot? Arrows. So this is talking about the launch platform for, those nuclear missiles, which in the scriptures, since the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they weren't going to say a YARS or a Satan II or an ICBM. They had to describe it the best way they could with weapons during their times, bows and arrows, spears, things like that. And they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eye shall not spare children. And everyone in the United States of America that is not of the elect of the nation of Israel, hey, they're going to be fuel for the fire when those nuclear missiles hit this place. Verse 19, and Babylon, the virgin daughter of Babylon, Babylon the Great, America, the glory of kingdoms, the American dream, the city whose streets were paved with gold, really pyrite, and the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And Sodom and Gomorrah was overthrown with fire and brimstone from the sky. And this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, because when you go to Revelation 11 verse 8, America is also known as spiritual Sodom, which is very easy to see. I don't even really need to explain why that's the case. Shall be overthrown with modern fire and brimstone, those nuclear missiles. And these next couple of verses show that it's not talking about the Neo-Babylonian Empire. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. When those nuclear missiles hit this place, it's going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland where man, woman, or child will never set foot on ever again, which, ancient Babylon is in modern-day Iraq, and people are clearly still dwelling there to this day. And then, after a time, only harsh desert creatures are going to dwell here, as it's about to say. But the wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures. And the owls shall dwell there, and the satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and the dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. And we can clearly see that with all this talk about World War III and nuclear weapons being used, that the days of Babylon's judgment are here to come and are no longer being prolonged. But before we get out of here, I'm going to just close it out with a little bit of this article from UPI.com. Kim Jong-un threatens to use nuclear weapons against U.S., South Korea. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un warned the United States and South Korea that any attack would be met with a nuclear response, state media reported Tuesday, as tensions remain high on the peninsula and concerns swirl about a possible provocation ahead of the U.S. presidential election. So even a Rocket Man, hey, he wants that smoke too. And who's he an ally of and has been receiving help from? Russia. And North Korea claims that they have nuclear missiles capable of reaching California. And if that's the case, when these nuclear missiles get to getting shot, hey, America should expect some nuclear surprises from North Korea as well. But that's it with this video. I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Hey, just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babol, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.